So, as you know by now, during midday today, the Supreme Court decided to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, as soon as I heard this, I basically, for me, it was an oh shit moment. Like, I was like, oh shit, yeah, the Supreme Court. And I was basically telling everybody who was around me, whether I knew them or not, that this had happened. And I was just really excited about it because this week the Supreme Court handed down two major decisions. First of all, I'm a New Yorker. I am a gun owner. I'm obviously a Republican. And the thing about it is, New York, for the longest, since longer than I've been born, was a segregated state. Basically, minorities were inside the cities and whites moved out to Long Island. Now, in my time on this earth, I was able to manage to purchase a house on Long Island, and I also earned property in Queens. And once you move across that invisible border, that invisible line that separates New York City from, say, Valley Stream, and then to other parts of Long Island like Hempstead, anything in Nassau County or Suffolk County. Once you move past that invisible line, something funny happens. Automatically, you have rights that you didn't even realize you had. If you're inside New York City, there are basically no guns being sold whatsoever. You can't even buy a BB gun legally at all. Crossman, Daisy, you can't own anything. Meanwhile, across this invisible line, you have white parents who take their kids hunting. You have white parents who buy their kids BB guns and they're able to shoot squirrels and mice and rats and whatever. You have white parents who have guns. You have white parents who even buy their children guns when they become of age, like 18, 20. And the thing about it is, there was this write-up, and I'm not going to spend too long about this, but there's a write-up that talks about the racist roots of gun control. And basically, gun control measures were first really enacted in order to make sure that freed black slaves couldn't own guns. So just by crossing these invisible lines from one segregated area to one integrated area, automatically your constitutional rights as an American citizen are basically challenged or overturned. And that doesn't make sense because if we have a Second Amendment and it gives you the right to bear arms, it stands to reason that that goes for every single American citizen. Only those gun control laws were originally put in because they wanted to keep guns out of the hands of freed black slaves. So now you fast forward to 2022. What you end up having is you have criminals, regardless of color, white, black, Hispanic, whatever, who have guns, who illegally have guns, who have illegal guns, and they conceal carry illegally. Put them up against the law-abiding citizen, and look at what the government has done. The government has taken the law-abiding citizen, reduced the amount of guns they have access to, reduced the amount of bullets they have access to by basically taking certain guns and basically saying, yeah, well, you can't have more than X amount of bullets. The criminal doesn't give a fuck about what guns are illegal. The criminal doesn't give a fuck about how many bullets you say he's not allowed to have. The criminal's walking around with fully automatic AK-47s. The criminals are walking around with fully automatic Glocks that they have a little switch that they 3D print. These motherfuckers with these piece of shit 4-cylinder cars, god damn it. But anyway, the criminals have illegal, fully automatic machine guns, and they're up against the law-abiding citizen. What the Supreme Court just did in New York was basically told these fucking Democrats, Schmuck Schumer, what they basically did was they told them, guess what? First of all, New Yorkers are citizens just like anybody else. All of them. Number two, they have a Second Amendment right. Number three, you don't have a right to tell them when they can and can't protect themselves. Now, you know who this bothers more than anything? And I'm going to get to Roe versus Wade in a second. But you know who this really bothers? You know who doesn't want to see people like me have access to my Second Amendment rights? There are a couple of people. Number one, criminals. If a criminal busts into my house right now, I got a motherfucking I have an AR-15 right now loaded, just waiting if somebody decides to break into my house. Now, home invasions happen. We know they happen. We've seen the videotapes. Anybody breaks into this motherfucking house and you automatically become target practice. That's it. The castle doctrine gives me the right to protect my home. But then the question becomes, if I have the right to protect myself, why don't I have the right to protect myself just because I cross some invisible border? If I'm an American citizen by birth and I'm got my Second Amendment right, and I have the law that says I can protect myself, then just by passing over some fucking border that's invisible, my right as an American doesn't end while I'm standing on fucking American soil. So basically, long story short, because I don't want to spend too much time on this, because I rant. Supreme Court told these motherfucking Democrat losers, guess what? Not only does he have a right to the pistol that he got, not only does he have a right to that Desert Eagle 50 caliber, but he has a right to protect himself anywhere in his state because that's his right. That's what it is. Now, this all really comes down to the 10th Amendment. And Roe versus Wade also comes down to the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment says that any rights, basically you can read it yourself, but it says that any rights that aren't delegated to the federal government are left up to the states or the individual. So the states do have a right to say, what, the extents of certain laws are. But what they can't do is they can't cancel out your basic human right, especially your Second Amendment. They can't cancel that out just because they think you shouldn't be able to conceal carry or to fucking trade. And by the way, I'd like to point out that here in New York City specifically, the trains have gotten very dangerous. We've got people who literally are pushing fucking people in front of trains. We've got people who, when the women don't want to talk to the guys, these guys are taking shit and smearing it in the woman's face. Like if you watch my video when I went to Dubai, I pointed that out. We have filthy infrastructure and we've got dangerous infrastructure because there are people literally committing crimes on other people and nobody can stop them. And it's crazy because it's funny when something happens, the only thing people do is they pull out video cameras and they start recording it. But what else could they do? They don't have weapons. If they're legal law-abiding citizens, they don't have weapons because they've been disarmed. So what else do you expect them to do? And then they're afraid that if they do try to intervene, there's a couple of videos where they claim that women say that they were raped in public on the train in front of everybody. And I'm like, well, first of all, that doesn't even make sense. But second of all, let's say that was me. What do you expect me to do about it? I have to get into a fist fight with somebody and I don't know if they're armed or not in order to protect another citizen? Well, you know what? I don't have to rant anymore. Whether you're a cop or a fucking defense attorney or whatever you are, all of that is bullshit. And the Supreme Court just threw all of your bullshit, just threw it out. So now, if let's say there's some woman screaming for help, and I've actually been in this situation before, where you have a woman screaming for help and you're standing there and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't know if this person who's fucking attacking her, I don't know if this guy's got a weapon. Well, now, guess what? Mr. Desert Eagle gets to go wherever Mr. Desert Eagle wants to go. See, this is what they were afraid of. They're afraid that you're going to have law-abiding citizens who are fucking armed. That's what they're afraid of. And then I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just want you to think back in your mind about that George Floyd situation. You had a bunch of cops. Originally it was two. You had two cops. I forget their names because they really don't matter anymore. But they got their knee on this dude's neck. And everybody's standing around and they're staring at the cops and like, hey, get off this guy. You don't have to do that. And the guy dies on the fucking ground. And the thing about it is, I'm thinking to myself, now, here's a question. What if that crowd was armed? What if the whole crowd was armed and there's two cops there and they got their knee on the dude's neck and he's up there screaming for help? If those people decided that they're going to pull out on the cops and say, get up off them, they actually have a right as citizens to do that, believe it or not. See, I know most of y'all never took civics, so you don't understand your fucking rights, which is a damn shame. None of these goddamn schools teach civics anymore. They teach you stupid shit like matrices and shit in math. You don't know none of this bullshit. You can't even help your kids with their math because that shit's so ridiculous. Furthermore, there was another thing. I'm thinking about that Uvalde with that school shooter. And you got all these parents who are literally being held back by the cops while there's somebody inside killing their fucking children. Here's my question to you. I want you to just think about this. I'm going to move on. How about if all of them parents were armed? I want you to just think about that for 1 fucking second. How about if all them parents were armed? Do you think that if Mr. Desert Eagle is there, and I got some other parents right there, and they got Mr. Desert Eagle too. Do you think we're going to fucking stand outside and let you hold me fucking back while my kid's in a fucking school getting shot at by some piece of shit? The answer is obviously no. The answer is obviously no. So who is it that wants to keep your Second Amendment rights from you? Well, obviously it's the police. Obviously. That's number one. Number two, it's these stupid fucking liberals, especially the morons who don't even, first of all, they never took civics. Number two, they think they know every fucking thing because they saw it on Rachel Maddow and she explained it to them. And they're so fucking smart. Those are the other people who think they know every fucking thing. But bottom line is, all that shit just came to an end this week. And I'm actually amazed at the efficiency of the Supreme Court because they ended 2 long debates in 1 week. 1 week. So anyway, Roe versus Wade. And I'm gonna make this part actually really quick because there was only one thing I really wanted to talk about. But maybe the next time I go to the range, I'll make a Second Amendment video because I do that during the summer when I have nothing else to do. Roe versus Wade was a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the Constitution of the United States generally protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion. The decision, which struck down many U.S. federal and state abortion laws, fueled an ongoing debate in the United States about whether or to what extent abortion should be legal, who should decide the legality of abortion, and what the role of moral and religious views in the political sphere should be. It also shaped debate concerning which method the Supreme Court should use in constitutional adjudication. Okay, now right here, holding. The Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. The 14th Amendment is private contracts. It's also part of civil rights, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, by the way, which basically had to be put there because blacks who were freed from slavery were not given civil rights, nor were they being treated as U.S. citizens. So blacks back then couldn't have Mr. Desert Eagle. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? Now blacks can have Mr. Desert Eagle and Mr. AR-15 and Mr. Scar 20. So we don't, so all that shit is a fucking wash now, buddy. So anyway, what was I saying? This right was not absolute and had to be balanced against the government's interest in protecting women's health and protecting the fetus's life. Texas statutes make it a crime to procure an abortion. The Roe court held violated this right. Roe versus Wade was overruled on Friday, June 24, 2022. That is today. The things that I specifically want to point out. Number one, it says this right was not absolute. Now, that's why I'm going to go right now to the next phase, the bill. All right, so I know some of y'all never had civics and everything, but basically when somebody says something is a right, in order for them to say that something is a right in this country, United States of America, it literally has to be in the Bill of Rights in order for you to say that it's a right. Now, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, among others, were added to the Constitution, and those gave rights to previously disenfranchised minorities, i.e. freed black slaves. But as it goes, this is the Bill of Rights. Anything that is in it is a right in this country. Anything that's not in it is not a right. Just that simple. So, Article 1, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the exercise thereof of free speech, or the free exercise thereof of abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, let me just say it very simply. These rights are basically called negative rights. These take power from the government. See, I know some of y'all didn't have civics, so y'all don't understand this shit. The people who founded this country had escaped from the tyranny of the king in England. And they set up a government where they gave the individual rights above what the government had. Because, see, where they came from, the king had all the rights, and he could do whatever he wanted to you at any given time. That's the reason why all these rights are written in order of importance. So the first thing that they made as right was that you could say basically whatever you wanted, free speech and free expression, free religious practice. And they specifically made it so the Congress cannot make laws. The first words, Congress shall make no law. Now, some people don't understand that this does not apply to private businesses. A private business such as White Castle can tell you that you have to wear the White Castle uniform. You're not allowed to go into White Castle and be a worker there and wear the Burger King uniform. You're not allowed to wear the McDonald's uniform. They don't give a fuck what you want to wear. If you work for them, you sign a contract. In the 14th Amendment, you have private contract law. And because you signed a contract, you do basically what they tell you to do. You signed a contract. If they say you can't do something, you can't do it. Now, the Congress cannot pass a law against your freedom of speech. That's why I can say basically whatever I want in this video and they can't pass law against me. YouTube itself could say, yeah, well, we don't like what he has to say, so we're going to censor him or we're going to cut his video off. But the Congress can't do it. And that's the point. The government itself cannot censor your freedom of speech or practice of religion. Now, these people back then knew that there was always the danger the government would try to encroach on your freedom of religion or your freedom of speech or your freedom of expression. So what did they do? They gave us guns. Article 2, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Doesn't say anything about what you can and can't have. In fact, some people say, oh, yeah, well, you can't have a cannon. Actually, you could. If you had a boat, a cannon was a boat's way of protecting itself. A gun is your way of protecting your First Amendment. They don't like that shit. They don't like the fact that, they don't want you armed. King George didn't want you armed. Back then, if you carried a sword and you weren't a member of the aristocracy or the gentry, that was a serious crime, carrying a sword. They didn't even want you having a sword. So you damn sure know they didn't want you having no AR-15. And how did that go down? So basically, when the founders of the country, when they decided that they were going to rebel against the king sent a bunch of men over here with red coats. Well, guess what? We killed them. And we sent their red coats back even redder with the blood and the tea all over their red coats. They don't want you armed. They damn sure don't want me armed, but they don't want you armed either. But your Second Amendment is there to protect your First Amendment. Okay, number 3, no soldier in time of peace shall be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So basically, what does this mean? That means that the cops can't use your house unless you allow them. You have to consent. Why? Because the king might just put people up in your house. You can't do that shit. So if these motherfuckers come up to my door and they're like, hey, listen, we'd like to use your house because we want to spy on somebody across the street because we think they're a drug dealer. If I tell them no, well, officer, nah, I don't want you up in my house. And that's it. That's it. That's it. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Good night. That's it. Article 4. And you know what's funny? I want you to understand something. You don't need to be a lawyer to understand your fucking rights. All you got to do is be able to read this paper. Okay, number 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. What does this mean? Not only can't they put cops up in your house, but the cops ain't allowed to come up in your house or go through your private shit without a warrant. And it's just that simple. Just that simple. Let's speed it up a little. Number 5, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land and naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So first of all, let's just talk about our government right now as far as Article 5. Number 1, and I want to make it current events. Number 1, we have not declared war on Russia. We're not at war with Russia. Some people would say we're at a proxy war where we're giving fucking weapons to Ukrainians. We're giving them money to fight the Russians. But we haven't declared war on Russia. There has been no formal declare of war on Russia. So here's a question. How the fuck, without this, what is this called? Due process, do you take property from these people who may be citizens here with no due process? Could somebody explain that to me, please? There's been no formal declaration of war, but yet you take property from these people without due process. Then we had a thing called rendition, where we were literally kidnapping people just because we thought that they might be terrorists from countries that we hadn't even declared war on. The Congress has to declare war. Here's a question. How the hell were you doing rendition when the Constitution clearly says, and I understand this is for American citizens, but we're kidnapping people and holding them without any level of due process from countries that we didn't even declare war on. But let me go back to the American citizen. First of all, Fifth Amendment says, first of all, you don't self-incriminate yourself. And so it says you can't be a witness against yourself. Then it also says no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment of indictment of a grand jury. Basically, they can't hold you without charges, because you got to understand, the framers of the Constitution, they knew that these cops are pieces of shit, and they knew that they would use their power against you tyrannically. And they knew that they had to put it into law that these people can't break up into your house without just cause, a warrant from a judge. They can't live up in your house without your consent. They can't come into your house and take your shit. They can't come into your house and search your house without a warrant, because they knew that, hell, somebody could bring something into your house that's not even yours, and then they could indict you for it. And if you don't have a warrant, get the fuck out. And it's just that simple. But you see, we've been breaking the laws in many cases. We've been breaking these laws so long that I think some of these people done forgot what the law is. So anyway, Article 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. Why did we need this? It's because they knew that these cops are pieces of shit, and they'd hold you in a jail cell without giving you a trial. Like they'd put, you heard that thing, throw them in a cell and throw away the key? Yeah, well, this is what the Article 6 is designed to make it so that they can't do. These are negative rights. These aren't just rights for the individual. These are rights taken from the government. That's what they are. Let's see. The accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witness against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. So basically, the Sixth Amendment is there to make sure that these pieces of shit can't just illegally detain you, and they have to give you counsel or a lawyer of some type. And also you're allowed to have witnesses. And what does it also say? It says, and to be informed of the nature and the cause of accusation. That means that they can't hold you without charges, and they have to show you your accuser for the most part. It's a goddamn shame that somebody has to read this shit the way I have to read it, because most people just don't know. Okay, Article 7. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise reexamined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. So first of all, as it says right there, no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise reexamined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Well, there's also laws here that these, if you notice, most of these laws are here to protect you from the government. If they try to lock you up and throw away the key, these laws are supposed to be there to protect you constitutionally. These are your rights. 8, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. They can't torture you. They can't fine you $1 billion for bail. They can't come up with some bullshit number that they know that you can't possibly meet. Do they do that? I think they actually kind of do, because as far as torture goes, if they're going to put you in the booty house and you drop the soap and stuff, I consider that some form of torture. And as far as these fines go, you know, when I hear them say, yeah, you're going to be held on $500,000 bail, I think that shit's a violation of the Eighth Amendment. 9, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. The one that I wanted to get to is this last one, because this has to do with Roe versus Wade. Article 10, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Article 10 basically says that if this Constitution did not say that the federal government has a specific right, then that right goes to the state government or to the people. Those are your rights. Please try to remember them. Those are your rights. Do you see anywhere here where it says anything about a right to an abortion? Do you see anything here that says you have a right to housing? Do you see anything here that says you have a right to, welfare checks? I don't see it. I just don't see it. Long story short, there is no right to abortion. Now, you're going to hear them say it on CNN and MSNBC and Bloomberg and all these left-wing channels. You're going to hear them say over and over and over, oh, well, the Roe v. Wade was overturned and it took away a woman's right to abortion. Well, first of all, you can stop right there. There is no right to abortion. And it's demonstrably true just by looking at the Constitution. What they're talking about was, as I read for you in the very beginning, what they're talking about is 14th Amendment, woman's right to privacy, but it was never 100% guaranteed abortion would be okay, simply because they had to balance the fetus's life. If the fetus is considered an American citizen, it has a right to life. So therefore, what they're basically saying is that Roe v. Wade was giving a woman privacy to engage in an abortion if she felt that she needed it for whatever reason. But there is no right to abortion. So what they're basically saying is that according to the 10th Amendment, because the federal government has no right to say whether or not you have to or can't have an abortion, it's left to the states. And left to the states, left to the individual, as you saw in the 10th Amendment. So, you know what, listen, some lawyer or some judge or something could probably clean it up a little bit better than I could, because I'll admit I'm not a lawyer. But I understand these fucking rights because I can fucking read the Constitution. It's right there. The Bill of Rights is your rights. There are more amendments that are also in the law, but Roe v. Wade wasn't an amendment. It was a decision. It's not an amendment. See, this is what these Republicans and Democrats are doing. What they're doing is the Democrats are basically making things as difficult as possible, having people leave these large populous states. And they're moving into these red states from these blue states and voting liberal or Democrat or whatever. And they're getting louder and flipping a lot of these seats and this, that, and other. But they never actually want to have what's called a constitutional convention, because they never want to open up the books, put anything in, or take anything out. Because the Democrats automatically know if they were to try to open up the books to try to pass laws against guns, they know that the Republicans are going to take that time to put in something about pro-life. Or they also know the Republicans ain't going to let them take away anything that has to do with the Second Amendment. So while they are banning parts and add-ons like bump stocks and hellfire triggers and stuff like that, what they can't do is take away your right to actually own a firearm. They can't do it, especially if you haven't committed any crimes. They have no basis to do it. And that even goes on to say that, wait a minute, even if you have been a criminal and you serve time, they still don't have a right to take away your weapon, because once you've served your time and you're out of prison, they still have no right to take away your Second Amendment. So eventually maybe that'll be overturned, where you have these states that say, oh, yeah, well, if you broke a law or you went to jail, we're going to take away your right to own a weapon. My right to defend myself continues from the day I was born to the day I would die, period. You have a right to defend yourself. God gave scorpions a stinger for a reason. God gave crocodiles teeth for a reason. Those teeth ain't there, just to smile and shit. Those teeth are there to rip fucking anything that tries to attack the crocodile apart. That scorpion has a stinger so that he can sting the shit out of something. It's just that simple. That's nature giving animals weapons. So, you have a right to protect you. Every sentient being has a right to protect yourself. Don't let it. I had this argument with even some of my parents, because I told you, it was like I flipped my father on guns because he didn't want to. He abhorred the idea of guns. But after he saw Dylan Roof shoot up that black church, all of a sudden my father turned into Lord of War. He went out, he started buying guns left and right. My thing is, I explained this. I was like, listen, if you need to protect your house, these people doing home invasions and you got all types of shit going on, you can't even imagine. It's like you have a right to have a weapon, period. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have an absolute right. And when I say right, I mean the Second Amendment gives you a right to bear arms. Knives, pistols, whatever you need. A rifle, shotgun, whatever it is. So this whole thing that these liberals got going with this bullshit about who can have what and when and where, If you use a weapon illegally, then somebody has a right to take you out, because they can use lethal force against you to protect themselves. So I had enough of these fucking liberals. I had enough of them. So when I start arguing, I ain't going to stop. But anyway, where abortion stands in your state, a state-by-state breakdown of abortion laws. I'll include this article so you can read it yourself. But basically, it lists every single state and tells you exactly what the status of abortion is in your state. So basically, first of all, here's my thing. As far as these women scream, it's my body, you have that right. Listen, I don't give a fuck what you do, honestly. You need to, if you feel, because I was watching, now you've got all these stories coming out, these women, oh yeah, well I was having a baby and then we found out he had a genetic disorder that made it so the baby couldn't swallow. So, we decided we want to terminate. Listen, it is your body, and until the government says otherwise, you have rights to abortion in certain states. I honestly don't care. My problem is I don't want federal money, my federal taxes, I don't want it used on you in any way. I don't want to give you any welfare money. I don't want to give you any stimulus checks so that you and your dumbass kids can waste on cryptocurrency. I don't want you getting a dime of my money. If you have a problem with your body, that's fine. If you got to go, if the baby's coming out crooked and you need to terminate the pregnancy, listen, that's got nothing to do with me. I don't care. I really don't. However, the moment they want to take a dime out of my wallet, that's a problem. So you have every right to your body and your functions and all that shit. I don't give a fuck. You have no right at all to my wallet or my piggy bank or my bank account. You got no rights to that shit at all. The only way you get rights to that is if you and I are married. If you're married to some other dude out there, that simp, he can pay for your abortion. I'm not paying a dime. First of all, there's reasons why. You ain't got no access to my money. And that's what this is really about. This is about taxation and taxes used on a federal level to pay for you to go out there and be a thot. So my thing is, listen, my money is my money. Your body's your body. No problem. I have no problem with that. You can do whatever you want. But when it comes time for me to get new Brembo brake pads, or if I want to get a new plug for my electric car or something, I don't expect to have to make a decision whether or not my money goes to taxes for your ass or whether I get to spend my money on whatever I want to spend my money on. Because as an American citizen, that's my right, is to have my money that I earned for myself. So your body, do whatever you want. I don't care. I don't care. You could take yourself and go on a hot air balloon ride. I don't give a fuck. But when it comes down to taxing me to pay for it, now there's a problem. That's when my antenna go up. Now there's a problem. So anyway, all this decision did was simply what it should have done a long time ago, is return this decision to the states themselves. Some states have people who vote specifically because they are pro-life. Some states have people because they're pro-choice. I live in a pro-choice state. I don't have a problem with your choice. I just don't want to pay for it. That's it. That's my stance. You can do whatever you want. You could put a tattoo on your fetus. I don't give a shit. It's got nothing to do with me. But the second you try to reach into my wallet, that is a problem. So anyway, what are the laws according to the states? Well, I'm not going to read all of these, even though I could. Alabama, it says Human Life Protection Act 2019, which had been held by an injunction, was allowed to go into effect Friday. It makes it unlawful for any person to intentionally perform or attempt to perform an abortion unless an abortion is necessary in order to prevent a serious health risk to the unborn child's mother. Okay, well, hey, listen. If you got a kid who's, I don't know, a fetus who's crooked or some shit, and it's tearing the insides of you up, well, listen, that's between you and that's got nothing to do with me. I don't care. Alaska, the right to an abortion is protected by state law and Constitution. Governor Mike Dunleavy has said the overturn Roe v. Wade will cause renewed conversation on the issue of abortion rights in the state. Okay, whatever. But the right of abortion is protected by state law and constitution. You see, that's it. The state law and the state constitution gives you the right to abortion. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just not paying for it. Okay, Arizona. A pre-Roe v. Wade law bans abortions except when the mother's life is in danger. Yeah, I got no problem with that. Governor Doug Ducey in April signed a law banning abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Because basically what they're saying is at a certain point it's murder. Now, if you don't like Arizona's laws, move. Leave Arizona. Go to California, some shit. Okay, Arkansas. Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge signed the state's trigger law into effect Friday, banning abortion in the state following the overturn of Roe v. Wade. The Arkansas Human Life Protection Act makes performing or attempting to perform an abortion a felony, punishable by 10 years in prison and a fine of $100,000. Okay. There's a lot of women out there who are currently saying that they plan on having protests. Nothing wrong with that, as long as it's peaceful. And they're talking about how they plan on defying the Supreme Court. Well, the bottom line is, if you commit murder, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So if that means that they literally take you and throw you headfirst into a cell for 10 years and fine you $100,000, as this one says right here, that's on you. That's got nothing to do with me. My money will be used on electric cars, vacations, business class flights. While you're busy cutting babies to pieces, I'm going to be in Bora Bora. It's just that simple. Colorado, the right to abortion is protected, blah, blah, blah. Connecticut, the right to abortion is protected. Florida, law banning abortions after 15 weeks. Yeah, so basically, it seems that most of them, with the exception I see Georgia says a law prohibiting abortions after 6 weeks. Some of them have lower numbers than others. And what is this? Illinois, the right to abortion is protected. Yeah, a lot of these states already have protections for abortions. I like to go with Bill Clinton's saying. Bill Clinton said abortion should be legal, safe, and rare. I don't have a problem with it being legal. I don't have a problem with them being safe. I would like to make sure that they are rare because it bothers me the idea that we care so little about human life that we're fucking just killing people in the womb. I mean, I would like to think that we had gotten beyond that, but I guess we haven't. It's funny. I never imagined that we'd have to have arguments about whether or not we should be able to kill babies, or fetuses or babies, whatever you want to call it. But it says something wrong. There's something wrong with a society where your argument is whether or not you have a right to kill the unborn. Like, I just think there's something wrong with that. Maine, the right to abortion is protected. Yay. Okay. Maryland, the right to abortion is protected. Massachusetts, the right to abortion is protected by state law. Michigan, a pre-Roe versus Wade law bans abortions, but a judge ruled in May the state government cannot enforce the law as the lawsuit Planned Parenthood filed against the state plays out. Governor Gretchen Whitmer is also working to protect the right in the state. So that means the chances are Michigan is going to have a law that protects abortions up to a certain period of time. Okay, and listen, I got no problem with that. The right to an abortion in Minnesota is protected. Minnesota is a really fucked up state because the violence there is out of hand and it's just crazy. But I have it's a damn shame as an American that I'm willing to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to travel anywhere else in the world. I don't want to take fucking road trips in this country because it's so violent in certain places. And I don't even, there's certain parts of this country I wouldn't even want to be in after dark because between the carjackers, the racists, and just I just don't trust this company. I don't trust this country. When I go overseas to Dubai and the Maldives and the Philippines, I already know I'm as safe could be because if anybody does anything to me, the government there is going to kill them. When I lived in China, I could go to the ATM at 3 o'clock in the morning. Didn't have to worry about anything. Why? Because if one of them were to do something to me, their government would kill them. None of this bullshit that we have here in my state where if you murder somebody, you get like life in prison. No. In those other countries, you get executed. And it's just that simple. So, me personally, I don't do road trips. Some people keep telling me, oh, you shouldn't get an electric car. You need to be able to do road. Listen, I'm not driving around this motherfucker. I haven't been to the Grand Canyon. I have no intentions of going to the Grand Canyon. I haven't been to, Mount Rushmore? I have no intentions of going to Mount Rushmore. I'll be in Bora Bora, though. I'll even go to Hawaii, and Hawaii is part of America, but at least Hawaii doesn't have the level of violence that we have in this country, in its contiguous states. I think there's something wrong with these people, honestly. I really do. It's a damn shame that people need to have guns. See, they're so worried about whether or not the law-abiding citizen should be able to buy a gun. My thing is, you shouldn't need one. It's so violent here, you have to have one. When I go over to Dubai, when I go to China, when I go to Japan, when I go to South Korea, I toured Japan. I toured South Korea. I never needed a pistol. I never needed a gun. Because that government, you know what Japan does to you if you kill somebody? They give you the death penalty, but what they do is they don't even tell you when they're going to execute you. They let you just live each day not knowing if that day is going to be the day that they come get you out that cell and kill you. Like, I think that's just brilliant. It's brilliant. And you know what? Japanese people do their best not to commit murders. You know why? Because they know the government's going to kill them. Okay, so anyway, Nebraska, the right to abortion is neither protected nor barred. It says Governor Pete Ricketts has said he will push for the state legislature to pass a total abortion ban if Roe versus Wade is overturned. So he wants to ban the whole thing. But then again, who lives in Nebraska? Okay, New Jersey, the right is protected. New Hampshire, the right to abortion is not protected by state law, but chances are it probably will be because New Hampshire's a bunch of liberals anyway. Then there's New York. The right to abortion is protected by updated state law. So, you know what? In the vast majority of these states, the right to have an abortion is protected. There are a handful of states that have limits, 6 weeks, 15 weeks. There's a handful of states. But the thing about it is, if you really absolutely need one, and there's a health of the mother issue involved, I don't see the problem. You could take a trip. Hey, Daddy, Daddy, you got me pregnant, but you know what I'm going to do? I want to take a trip with the girls. We're going to go to New York. We want to go to New York. We're going to spend like a week in New York. And when you come here to New York, you just get your abortion here. It's like, they're going to give it to you. In fact, if you come here and tell them that you just escaped from your father who impregnated you in Tennessee or Alabama or whatever redneck state it is, when you come here, they'll say, oh, okay, no problem. We'll give it to you for free and we'll charge the taxpayer for it. So I don't really see a problem there. I really don't. My thing is, I got to say, the Supreme Court, they really rattled the cages today. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Let's see. North Carolina, the right to abortion is not protected. North Dakota, a trigger law is there. 6-week ban on abortion in Ohio, and so forth and so on. This actually gets pretty boring. But my thing is, first of all, the vast majority of these women are, in some cases, using abortion as birth control. Like, they're literally having multiple abortions just because they're being irresponsible. And yes, it takes two to tango. Maybe, I have an idea that could fix America. How about you get married before you have children? How about that? How about before you lay down with some guy, you make sure that this guy is of means and you vet him, right? And you don't just irresponsibly sleep with the person, get pregnant, and then, just pull out the vacuum cleaner and the hanger. Because I really believe that it's important for American citizens to protect, the fetuses that would eventually be American citizens. And I'm not saying that from a religious aspect. I'm just saying that there's no 100% way of us knowing exactly when the unborn is actually a baby. Everybody claims that they have the answer to that and everything, but me personally, I'd rather err on the side of caution. Now, granted, there are these rare circumstances like incest and rape. But guess what? If we were executing rapists, then this wouldn't be a big problem. This would be very, very rare because the rapists would be on the run because they know that if they rape somebody and they get them pregnant, they're going to be executed. So I don't see why we're just willy-nilly just doing this. But whatever. My bottom line is, listen, you do whatever you want with your body as long as I'm not paying for it. And that's the bottom line. So I'm going to put this URL there for you to read it. Hopefully you learned something. If you disagree with me, there is no shortage of windows from which you can throw yourself out of. I recommend the Sears Tower because you could go up about 40, 50 flights and you could try to fly. I don't think I've said anything very unreasonable. But again, if you disagree with me, it's like whatever. It's like I don't even like if it's a real serious disagreement, then whatever. It's like you believe what you want. I have my freedom of speech. So I'm going to say what I believe. I have a brand new Desert Eagle L550 caliber as my Second Amendment, which protects my free speech. So I'm just going to say what I want to say. I got an AR-15 that protects my free speech. I'm going to just say what I want to say. So if you disagree, you have every right you have to disagree. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying. Know your rights. Learn the Constitution. Don't let these stupid motherfuckers tell you that they've got rights that they don't have and that you don't have rights that you do. Please. And if there's anything you need clarified as far as the Bill of Rights that you can't figure out for yourself based on the reading, there's a bunch of links that break down every single right. There are a bunch of links that actually tell you what things that you think are rights are not really rights. But it should be kind of self-evident reading the Bill of Rights. So that's basically it. At this point, I've tired myself out, and I'm about to turn back to like MSNBC and CNN so I can watch the protest because it's going to be a long